Welcome to Ringside, the top 10 heavyweights here on ESPN Classic. I'm Brian Kenny here in Brooklyn at the historic Gleason's Gym. Gleason's opened in 1937, first in the Bronx, then in Manhattan, and now here in Brooklyn. It's been the training site for over 125 world champions, including such legends as Jake LaMotta, Muhammad Ali, and George Foreman. We'll count down the top 10 heavyweights of all time, according to boxing historian Bert Sugar. Back here in Gleason's Gym, Brian Kenny, Burt Randolph, Sugar. The countdown continues. Ringside, the heavyweight top 10. And now we're at number 7. And I think you have Ezzard Charles a little higher than most. Ezzard Charles is number 7 on Burt's list. Why, Burt?
Ezzard Charles was an extremely gifted fighter, but we don't know much about him. Why? He followed in the wake of Joe Louis. And as exciting as Joe Louis was, Ezzard Charles was vanilla. He was unexciting. And yet, what a great fighter. As a light heavyweight, faced Archie Moore 3 times, won 3 times. Really was a great fighter as a light heavyweight. Comes up to the heavyweight division. After Lewis retires, he beats Jersey Joe Walcott in a box-off. Defends 9 times in 2 years, once against Walcott. Walcott ultimately knocks him out in 51 and becomes champion. And yet, Ezzard Charles, still 16 years into his career, fights Rocky Marciano twice and gives him, outside of the first Walcott fight, the 2 toughest fights he ever had. 15-round decision, and the second was an 8-round knockout. Ezzard Charles split Marciano's nose, and if he had not knocked him out in that round, Charles would have beaten him. He was a great fighter and is totally underestimated as a great fighter.
So just talking about the criteria here, you're giving him credit for his greatness at light heavyweight, right?
Both.
Okay. So what about Michael Spinks, for example, who didn't have a great reign as a heavyweight champion, but was a heavyweight champion, had a great reign as a light heavyweight?
He wasn't as great in the light heavyweight as Ezzard Charles was, and Ezzard Charles was also a great heavyweight.
Even though he didn't win the title, and I know he beat a lot of great fighters, but didn't win the title.
But he was fighting during the war when all those titles were really frozen.
Okay.
They were frozen. And I think we put too much emphasis on just who wins titles when. And he became a great fighter and a champion, not a great champion necessarily, but he was just great. And I can't tell you, when he beats Charlie Burley, whom nobody wanted to fight.
But this is later in Burley's career, right? You tell me, was this
a little bit
prime
later.
Burley or no?
Well, Burley, nobody knew when his prime was because he could beat everybody.
But it was late in his career.
Later in his career.
Later, right.
But Ezzard Charles could beat anybody, and he was a slickster. He just, after he killed a man, Sam Baruden, in Cincinnati, never really had the heart to go out and try to knock a man out. He just outpoint him. Doesn't make him, as a fighter, maybe as a puncher, as a fighter, it doesn't make him any less great.
Let's see this greatness in action right now. Again, we're talking about number 7 on Burt Randolph Sugar's list. Ezzard Charles, number 7 on the list, with Jersey Joe Walcott.
At the beginning of round 1, champion Ezzard Charles, in black trunks to your right, moves out and boxes smartly. The challenger, Jersey Joe Walcott, in white trunks, is a marvelous boxer with good power in either hand. A year and a half ago, in 1949, Charles fought Walcott for the heavyweight championship left vacant by the retirement of former champion Joe Louis. Walcott and Charles were the outstanding heavyweights in the division, and it was agreed in 1949 that the winner of a Charles-Walcott fight would be crowned heavyweight champion. Ezzard Charles took a close, hard-fought 15-round decision in Chicago, and then was recognized as the 17th heavyweight champion of the world. Walcott will stand off and throw little feints, trying to get the champion to lead. This tactic was extremely successful against Joe Louis in their first meeting. Watch Charles come in with a hard right to the body, and Walcott will counter with a solid left right to the head. Both of these men are excellent counterpunchers. Heavyweight champion Ezzard was born in 1921 in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Ezzard is 30 years old and has been a professional fighter for 11 years. Charles holds victories over some of the greatest fighters of the decade. After beating Joe Walcott a year and a half ago for the vacated heavyweight championship, Ezzard then defended his title against the light heavyweight champion Gus Lesnovich, whom he KO'd in 7 rounds. Watch Jersey Joe get in some hard shots to the bottom head. Walcott is really letting out now. He wants that title desperately. This is Charles' 7th defense of the title that he won merely 18 months ago. Ezzard has stated many times that the greatest thrill of his life came last September 27, 1950. On that date, he met and defeated former champion Joe Louis, who had come out of retirement in an effort to regain the heavyweight championship. In a sensational 15-round slugfest, Charles won a unanimous decision over the Brown Bomber. Round 4 was given to Walcott by all 3 officials. But both rounds 7 and 8 were given to the champion, Ezzard Charles, because he landed the sharper punches. As we go into round 9, it's still a very close contest, with both men knowing that the heavyweight championship at this point is still up for grabs. After both men cut loose with ripping shots to the head and body, Charles catches Jersey Joe with a left hook and sends the challenger to the canvas. Walcott is in serious trouble as the referee picks up the count. Joe takes the count of 9 and gets to his feet. Let's watch that knockdown in slow motion from our ringside camera. Walcott seems to go right into that left hook. Notice the glazed expression in the eyes of Jersey Joe. Walcott smartly takes the full count, taking advantage of every one of those precious seconds to rest. As Walcott rises, the question is whether the champion can get in there and finish the job. This is the first time that Walcott has been down in 3 years. It took the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, to do it the last time. Walcott seems to have recovered from that knockdown. Joe is in marvelous condition, and it's paying off right now. Again, the champion lands some solid shots that force Walcott to hold. Both men shoot in some jolting punches, and Walcott staggers Charles with a left hook. It's scored as a big 9th round for Ezzard Charles, and it's definitely given him a substantial lead in this fight. Time after time, when one fighter seemed to be getting an advantage, his opponent would come back strong. That big knockdown, which Charles scored in the 9th round, seems to be the major difference in this contest. It's a strong finish to a great heavyweight championship fight. And there's the end of the 15th and final round. 2 magnificent fighters giving it all they had. Ezzard Charles wins a unanimous 15-round decision and retains his World Heavyweight Championship on March 7th, 1951.